Bigfooty Port Adelaide podcast is proudly sponsored by New Vision.
My team, kinda power. I love the power. I love the power.
G'day everyone and welcome to the Bigfooty Port Adelaide podcast, coming to you live on Port Fan Radio. Joining me this evening is the lovely Portia.
Macca.
What's happening?
We mucked up the scheduling, but I got to listen to the Alberton front bar while we waited, so that was pretty good.
There we go.
That's not a bad show, you know. They should do it every week.
Very passionate.
Absolutely.
Very passionate. Well, what a game on the weekend, eh?
Oh my God, I've not been so frustrated with a game that we could have maybe won since the Jared Polton game against Sydney at the SCG in about 2002 when he kicked the goal on the siren. Anytime you think about, games that you kick a goal on the siren, you think, oh, it's a legendary game, but that was just the shittest game, the most frustrating game, the game where you could sort of see we were hanging in there and we could win, but even if we won, you'd just be glad it was over and you got the 4 points, and this was really exactly that game. It was just constant source of frustration, even when we were up.
See, I just assumed then you were talking about the Melbourne game, but there you go.
Yeah, I had a double. Lucky me.
Yeah. That's it. So let's get on to our love and hate. One thing we loved, one thing we hated about Port Adelaide on the weekend. What was your love?
Look, I loved that we did sort of hold on to some extent. But that was the thing about this one. Like, it wasn't a fitness loss or anything like that. It was really a focus lost. It's when you know that you're going to lose if you lose focus and you hang in there for three quarters. I mean, I know it's shit, but given how many cards are stacked against us, first of all by, the advantages GWS have had list management, but also our selectors, the fact that we hung in as long as we did, that's kind of the good. It's a disappointing good because it's got an inevitable failure like Gallipoli, but that's about it.
Fair enough. Yeah, mine's along the same tack. I love the fact that, despite the fact that GWS really controlled the play, and they did really sort of control all game, we were able to keep in the game and we were able to work back some momentum ourselves and work our way back into the contest. And we did actually look half a chance there for quite a while. And there were a few times in the game where it looked like they might run away with it. But we kept up, we kept at it, and we worked ourselves back into the game up till three-quarter time. And, despite having significantly less of the ball as well. And I thought we were really efficient that way, which I did like.
Yeah, well, I mean, for me, I think that one thing that if I was a GWS fan, I don't think I'd be happy with that game because they're not as mentally tough as they should be, Like, they were a top four side last year, and the fact that we managed to hold them in with a clearly inferior team on the ground, at their home, basically their home ground, it would be a little unsettling, I would have thought.
Yeah, I would think so. And look, as I said, I thought they controlled the play. They had so much more of the ball. They dominated us on the inside, heaps more inside 50s, but we just kept at it, which I really did like. So I thought we played not too bad considering all that. What was your hate?
I don't know if it's a hate. I guess my hate is when I sort of when I thought you were Al on the Skype, which is basically that I didn't realise there was a Vic Metro versus Vic Country trial on until after it was completed, because I started looking up draft stuff after we lost.
Yeah,
that's kind of my hate. I missed that, but really it's just that I don't know. It's a very soft hate. The real hate I have, which is that I think that we've sort of seen, in my view, that Ken's not going to get us there. I know it's people say, oh, we're 2-2, and it's like, yeah, but like we talked about a couple of weeks ago on this podcast about how it almost looked like a coincidence that we'd picked our best side for the first couple of rounds, like our biggest side across the ground, with actual ability to play the game plan that we've regularly tried to play in previous seasons, and the recent selection since then has sort of said, yeah, that was an accident. And it's looking like late Euro Choco, when you just get the players that you like and try and make a game plan around them that week, whoever's fit.
Yeah, it's a bit disappointing. As I said last week, I didn't really understand the decisions on selection, and I was so happy when I saw our sort of first round team and how we played, and we finally had good structure all over the park and good height all over the park, and especially in the midfield as well. And you get a couple of injuries and you just make some baffling changes. I don't understand it. I don't understand what we're trying to do. It's very disappointing in that regard.
Well, I mean, it kind of makes it look, and this is the frustrating part. It kind of makes it look like we don't know why we won the first 2 rounds. You know, like that was baffling to us, that we just thought, oh, okay, it's for some other thing, and then the changes we've made since then have, you know, really turned the side inside out and reverted us completely to the last couple of years. And that's worrying for coaching. From you know, reviewing your coaches, the thought that maybe they sort of chanced into those first 2 wins in some respects, or there were different voices on the coaching panel that were heard that week as opposed to more recently, or the loss against the Crows has caused the power sway within the coach's box to change from one way to another. It doesn't seem unified. No. I would have thought. I'm not saying they're arguing or anything like that, but I'm just saying it just seems to be a lot of different ideas that aren't mixing.
Yeah, there just seems to be a bit of confusion there in the box.
I think, I'd say so. Or selection table particularly, but yeah.
My hate this week is that we've just got too many players who are inconsistent. And that really does my head in as well. Like, they play well one week and go completely missing the next, and probably more than half our side, you could say, come under that sort of category. And you know, they can look $1 million one week and not get near it the next. It's a bunch of players who've got plenty of talent as well, which is frustrating. And you know, they've got to a certain level, but just don't seem capable of taking the next step. And I'm not sure if that's a talent issue, if it's a development issue, a coaching issue, or a motivation issue. But it's certainly an issue.
Do you want to name a few names?
Oh, could certainly name a few names. I mean, Jared Pollock's probably one. Tom Jonas is probably another. Aaron Young stands out. Jarman Impey's probably the prime example, I think, because I think he's got talent to burn and just isn't delivering anywhere near enough. Carl Amon, you could say, and then some more of the obvious guys like Hamish Hartlett, Sam Gray, that sort of thing as well. And look, I thought Hammer played pretty well on the weekend, and I'm actually liking what he's doing down back at the moment. But again, with his talent, he should be doing more. Yeah,
look, I mean, I don't mind. I didn't mind Hamish Hartlett this game. He might not have raked it up in disposals, but what he did was pretty good, I thought.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm in the disappointed with Impey camp for sure. Absolutely. He's been treated as a first 22 player. Got the rush back in, and he's just not putting it up. He is inconsistent, but then why is he inconsistent? Like, what's the thing behind it? Why do we have? You know, we can change these players around and around. And if we keep finding inconsistent players, you know, there's something else going on there, surely.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, that's right. And you could probably add a few more players to that list as well. But for me, that's the real frustration, is because I believe we've got a very talented squad, but they just don't show it consistently enough.
Yeah. I think we have some pretty exploitable weaknesses, and let's get back on our bandwagon again. It's Ryder's fault.
Bloody Paddy, come on, man.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I think that it was really telling in some respects that this is my theory. I've got a new theory, which is that Brendan Lade is fantastic, which if you look at Ty Vickery's form and you look at Paddy Ryder's form coming back, you know, you'd have to say maybe there's a Lade factor in our ruck work. And seeing the outcome, you know, Sam Powell-Pepper, Ryder's out. All of a sudden, Sam Powell-Pepper just drops down to 8 disposals and no real impact, apart from one good contested mark early.
Yeah.
Maybe Brendan Lade is the guy. Who knows?
Possibly. Do you think we would have won this game if Ryder played? Because that would have allowed us someone to go up against Mumford in the ruck, who's an actual ruckman, and then Trengove to play down back, where we got absolutely hammered by their tolls.
I think it would have given us at least some possibility of making it a shootout, and that would have played in our favour to some extent, for sure.
Yeah. Again, very disappointing, Paddy, but let's make sure he makes up for it in the next few weeks.
Yeah, don't get suspended. God.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Question time. We've got quite a few, so we'll check through these. Pommy Power has asked, papadum or naan bread?
Look, always naan bread because they're hot. Papadums lose heat really quickly, but the question for me would be like naan or roti.
That's a tough one as well.
Yeah, and the interesting thing, it's one of those things where a restaurant usually does one of them good and one of them kind of shit. I've never been to an Indian restaurant that does both well. So
Fair enough.
You got to. I'll go with either of them. Quite honestly, whichever one comes out the freshest. And with the naan, you want the bubbles. You want the big bubbles and the little burnt bits. That's what you really want. Yeah.
Look, for me, it's naan every time. Garlic naan is probably, outside of Sachin Tendulkar, it's probably the best thing to come out of India, I reckon. So that's where I'd be going.
Yeah, garlic naan is pretty nice, I've got to say. A nice hot garlic naan. But, papadums are nice occasionally.
Yeah, they're not too bad.
Here's a question for you. Papadums or prawn crackers?
Prawn crackers.
Ah, okay.
Only because they do that weird thing where they stick to your tongue, and it's kind of strange but really satisfying at the same time. So
I think if you're a kid, definitely prawn crackers every time.
Yeah.
Because it's just so interesting and exciting.
Yeah.
Because you're a kid and everything's just weird.
That's right. Papagallo has asked, what's happened to the fourth quarter Burjo boost that we had during 2013-14?
I don't think fitness is losing us games. I think it's what I said earlier. It's focus. I reckon it's focus.
Yep. Yeah, it's all mental.
Yeah. We say mental, but yeah, it is. Yeah, it's not. It's not like we're not doing well. Blah blah blah. It's just losing focus.
It's focus and confidence and all that sort of stuff. And
yeah, it's not a confidence thing even. I don't think. I think it's just the fact they lose track of what's going on. And it's hard to think that hard for 2 hours. For anyone.
Yeah.
It's tricky.
Yeah. I struggle after about 10 minutes, but...
And especially when we've been running around, full pelt and kicking and marking and everything else. I mean, people talk about football as being dumb, but to play modern football, you can't be dumb. You can't be dumb.
No.
You can't afford to be.
Nope. Because you've got to know the ins and outs of probably... It's quite different to what it used to be, where you could sort of concentrate on one opponent because you knew you were going to play on that one opponent for pretty much the whole game, so you could work on them during the week. Now you could play on 10, 12 different players throughout the course of a game. There's so many sort of structural things going on as well. It's certainly a lot harder, and players need to be a lot more switched on than what they used to be back in the day, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, and look, a lot of that is not even the raised professionalism. A lot of that is just coming down to the fact that, and that's what makes Australian rules excellent, is that it is hard to keep track of. That's what keeps it competitive. That's what makes it so that you can have a team that is worse on paper, but they still win. The equalisation of the draft and everything else is there, but the fact that Australian rules is hard to know everything about. The NFL, they'll talk about, you've got to memorise all the playbooks. It's like, yeah, but once you memorised them, you got them, right? you got them.
That's it.
And it's a short play. And then 15 seconds later, you're starting from scratch. You don't have to work out how to implement, new strategies on the fly very often.
Yeah.
Whereas it's constantly happening, constantly. So it's very, very mentally demanding game if you're good.
That's it. Johns has asked, can you see Ken learning from his mistakes in forward structure?
Nope.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought so. Last year we went in under height up forward a few times as well, and I don't see why this year would be any different.
Yeah, no, I think for me this last 2 weeks has just sort of confirmed that he's not progressing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Zach Wild has asked Ibanez or Jackson guitars.
I don't know a lot about guitars, but my guitar loyalty has to go like people do with football teams. My guitar loyalty has to go to Gibson because it's my dad's guitar.
Fair enough. There you go. I'm going to say Ibanez because a lot of the guitarists from my favourite bands play Ibanez, so. Guys like Meshuggah and Fear Factory and Animals as leaders and Slipknot and Korn, all them. So they're all Ibanez players, so yeah, I'd probably choose them.
Fair enough.
There we go. Forza Porter's asked a very good question in why did we fly Austin to Canberra and not play him?
Who does he replace? Like, we talk about him being a big unit, but he's only 2 centimetres taller than Cleary.
Yeah, he still would have, he still would have helped, wouldn't he?
Well, yeah, but who do you drop for him? That's the question.
Probably Broadbent. He hasn't really done much this year, I would say.
Yeah, but do you think... I don't think that makes us necessarily... Look, it gives us more options. I agree with that. And given we got beaten in the air, I can see that being valid. But I don't know. Like, if I was going to make a change between our list that wasn't playing in our list that was. I mean, I don't think that's the one I make. I don't know.
I think he should have played. It would have given us a genuine... With Ryder out of the side, it would have given us a genuine key defender that certainly would have helped, I think.
Yeah, look, it could have. I mean, I guess, yeah. I'd be more inclined, if I was going to make the change, I'd be more inclined to have brought in Frampton, purely because then Jackson Trengove can be a part-time ruck and then he can drop back because he's a big enough unit, he's got the experience, and he could have taken on Patton. I would have been happy with Trengove on Patton defensively.
Okay, that's fine. Yep.
You don't agree?
No, I certainly agree with that. Yeah, well, as I just said, we needed another key defender, I think, and Trengove certainly would have done. Trengove's a wonderful key defender. Let's be straight. And there was no way that Patton would have kicked 6 goals if Trengove was playing down back.
No, and he's the biggest of our key defenders too. So that's the thing we really lose by having him sort of playing ruck or forward is that he's our biggest key defender. You know, if you're up against a team with tall forwards, he kind of has to play defence. So,
very true. Power has asked the age-old question: when eating a sausage on bread, what goes first? Choice A: thick bed of sauce, then the sausage. Choice B: sausage first, then a thick sauce line on top.
That's a big question.
It is.
It's bigger than he's asking because there's so many.
I'm going to say, where's the onions in this scenario too?
Well, that's. Let me don't even. What is it? Is it going to be a diagonally placed sausage or is it going to be bisecting? What sort of bread is it? Is it going to be white bread, multigrain, wholemeal?
Nah, if you're going the sausage on bread, it's got to be white bread.
All right,
I'm a big fan of multigrain, but it has to be white bread.
Is it a square loaf or is it a Helga's loaf, which are a bit wider, or is it something else? What sort of sausage is it? Is it a snag that you get from the barbecue? Is it a bockwurst? Is it a Vienna sausage? Is it a hot dog, or like a Don's hot dog or something like that? What is it? What sauce are you going to put on it? Tomato sauce, barbecue sauce, Worcestershire sauce, a bit of mustard maybe? What sort of mustard? Seeded mustard, American... What are you going to do?
We could literally talk about this for the rest of the podcast, I think.
I could do a podcast about sausage on bread. That's a big one. We need to pay proper attention to that one.
Look, for me, you can't. I love Helga's bread. You can't go Helga's bread with sauce and a hot sausage because it just falls to pieces, and you end up with sauce and sausage in your hand. You might as well just pick up a sausage from the pan and eat it that way, I think. So you need something with a bit more sort of firmness to it, and I think. The usual sort of white loaf you get from Baker's Delight. For me, that's the perfect sausage in bread.
And do you butter the bread before you put the sauce and sausage on?
Yes, you do. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And if and onions, with onions, do you do a diagonal placement for the sausage so you can hold more onions, or do you stick with a sort of a bilateral one? Because I think there's a lot of people that would.
I don't know. I'm a square sausage placer as opposed to diagonal. Because I think then you get a little bit over the side, which is nice to start with as well. But yeah, I don't know. The other question is, do you go brown onions or red onions?
Well, there's that as well, isn't there? Absolutely. And if you're having a German sausage, do you add a bit of sauerkraut? You know?
That's true. I'm a staunch red onion fan. Okay. I'll back in the red onion above anything else every day of the week.
Fair enough. I'm not picky. Yeah.
Should we talk about footy again? Or
yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not? That's it. T. Cray has asked to describe the position Justin Westhoff plays in a maximum of 3 words.
Anywhere he wants.
I was going to say biddy flog plotter, but that goes well as well. So.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Glitcho1 has asked who gets dropped out of White, Amon and Impey this week.
Look, I mean, the bigger question is who comes in. It's easy to find guys to drop, and those shorter guys that have been consistent are on the list, absolutely. On my list, anyway. I don't know if they're on Ken's list. I bet they're not. But who comes in? Who comes in, Macca? You know? I don't know. I mean, of those, I think Impey's probably the most out of form. Really? Yeah. I mean, Amon is not doing heaps, but I mean, he's still getting numbers at least. And White, I mean, if you play White last week, you got to keep playing him because otherwise, or the coaches will keep playing him because otherwise they look like absolute idiots. Bring him back too early, which everyone already said. So, you know.
That's fair. I don't know. I think Impey's spot might be in a little bit of trouble. Amon's has at least been consistent, so I'll give him that. White, well, I guess we'll talk about him a little bit later on. But we've had some good answers for the Justin Westhoff question. We've got Dog Without Leash. Bomber Clifford has said Roaming Barista, which I really, really like.
Yeah.
And Paddy has said Centre Half Beautiful, which is also pretty good.
Yeah. That's not bad.
Port Woolwich has asked the question, how would you rate Cleary's performance the past 2 rounds? Patton kicked 6 goals on him this round, Walker 4 goals last week.
I made a comment. I used my good material in the Aberdeen front bar when I was listening to it, which is that it reminds me a lot of Zach Dawson when he started at Hawthorn, in that everyone was saying, he's a shit defender. It's like, no, he's been set up to fail every week. And it just feels like we're doing that with Cleary at the moment. Yeah. He's getting the big jobs. We know he's under height and team defence. Yeah, well, team defence is one thing, but team defence should have a backup because every opposition's going to try and break your team defence.
Yeah, for sure.
And it always seems to be Cleary on the rough end of it. So look, I don't even blame him. I don't even blame him for the way he's playing. I think he's just been set up to look the fool. So
yeah, he got let out to dry. Those last couple of goals where he sure got into him. Like that, they weren't his fault. And I will also say that Patton didn't kick 6 goals specifically on him either. I reckon he only kicked probably 3, 4 at the most on Cleary. So he was poor last week in the second half, but I guess he's still young, he's still learning. I still hold out hope for him. I think with another key defender there to help out, that'd be great. And if we can get the team defence going properly, then he'll look a hell of a lot better.
Can I throw in a question, which is, you think... Well, I'm going to.
Okay.
Do you think that Todd Marshall might get his start as a key defender?
Probably not.
He's got the attributes. For the style of defence we're trying to play, he's got the attributes. He's got the quick lead, he's got a decent mark, and he's got a good ball awareness, and he chases and he tackles. Like, that's pretty much what you want for a key defender in the current style of defence we're trying to play. I'm just wondering.
Yeah, you're right there. He does have those traits, but I just don't think we would go down that path.
Okay. That's all right. That was just a question.
Yep. Lightning Rod has asked, will Chad ever reach his potential, or are we looking at Motlop Mark II?
Maybe. Look, Chad's a small forward. Yeah? Chad's a small forward, and the rule of football is that you don't hope that your small forward's going to make your forward line. You can't. That's not a realistic expectation. And if they do make your forward line, you're probably not going to go all that far in finals. That's what history tells you as well. You know, if your best player is a small forward, you have a hard time in finals. That's usually the case.
It's the Phil Matera rule.
Yeah, exactly. Finals Phil Matera. So I think that his potential will come if and when we have a midfield that is resilient enough to deliver consistently, and forwards that stay forward and have some kind of structure that make him a harder matchup than, there's Chad Wingard. Okay, he's the only guy near the ball right now. Okay.
Exactly. We need more talent up forward who are going to take pressure off him because, as you just said, I think it's pretty clear that opposition teams sort of know that if they can shut down Chad, then they're a massive, massive chance of winning the game. And if he gets off the leash, then it's more likely that we're going to win. So if we could have another sort of forward midfielder like Chad is, who's just as good, that'd be bloody wonderful.
It would be, but I don't think it's the main thing that's going to solve the problem. I think it's just having alternate legitimate targets of any medium or large size, ideally.
Yeah. Marchie is asked on Spreaky Chat, is Chad ever moving into a more midfield role? And I guess he did in the first sort of week or two, but it's just too valuable up forward. And I also think there's a concussion issue as well there, which will stop him from becoming a full-time midfielder, unfortunately. Because I think that might even be his best position.
I'm not convinced of that. Look, I mean, I think that the main trait that I admire about Chad Wingard is he's goal hungry. And that's good for a half forward. That's brilliant for a half forward. And if he starts playing midfield, like we're talking about, because he already, like you said, he already plays a little bit midfieldy when, the teams come out of defence and he's starting in midfield. But, I don't want to see Chad Wingard loitering around half-back or the back of the square. I've got no interest in that whatsoever. Complete waste of time. So I hope he just keeps playing that half-forward role where he runs at the top of the centre square to the goal all the time. That's his best area. And that's still a part-time midfield role in effect. Yeah. But yeah, I don't ever want to see him turn into Hamish Hartlett. Let me put it that way.
No, that's fair. Long live PAFC with the last question here. What did those selections last week say about the depth at the club, or perhaps what the coaches think of that depth?
I think I kind of covered that, which is that they're all confused. But it also, the depth at our club is short, or we've given them long contracts and are just waiting to delist them. It's a combination, or both.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's
bit of both,
that's
really.
Basically our depth. And then there's a couple of draftees thrown in. That's basically it. So the depth that this is the annoying part. The guys in our team right now, if we say, we're going to drop Kai and we're going to drop Jarman Impey, who's replacing them? Who's look at our list? Who are we bringing in? There's hope with Atlee and Drew, but they're still raw. They've got to get up to speed. Yeah. With their training and everything else, and that's fine. They might get up to speed in the second half of the year, so then we might get a little bit of a bonus out of them.
Well, you just know it'll be Cracker and Need.
Or Brendan Archie, guys that we've given really good goes to before, and they've occasionally had good games in shit seasons, and then nothing. So we've got dead weight, and I say this every year, so it's just becoming a broken record. But we've got dead weight on that depth chart, and we talked about at the start of the year, it was good to have competition. It's we got some competition for the top 10, but we don't for the top 22. Not really.
That's it. Right, onto our review. And Port Adelaide made the trek to Canberra on Saturday to play GWS, and despite leading at three-quarter time by 4 points, we lost by 31 points, 11 goals 15 to 16 goals 16. Wasn't that great? Travis Boak kicked 2 goals. He was the only multiple goal kicker, and he also became our longest-serving AFL captain as well. So I guess the first question I've got is, Portia, why did we lose?
We lost because they had the edge in midfield that they needed when it mattered. Our defence was not able to maintain what it was doing all day, and when we went forward, we didn't go forward well enough, and our forwards that were there did not do brilliantly. It's not really a surprise that Charlie Dixon looked better when we had more key forwards in the side. It's not a surprise at all. Yeah. That's really obvious. So we just reverted to last year. If we play like this again next week against Carlton, we know what we're going to see because we've seen it the last couple of years. Yeah, that's why we lost.
Let's not go there today.
No. Okay, we'll save that for Thursday.
Yeah, that's it. For me it was we were just completely dominated in the midfield by GWS, both inside and outside. They just controlled inside. They won so much contested ball, and they just kept onto it on the outside. They had outside runners that absolutely dominated in Kelly and Scully, which I think we spoke about in the preview as well, that they were going to be dangerous. And yeah, look, I had to work on Saturday, so I kept track of the scores on my phone as I was working, and was pretty bitterly disappointed with what seemed to happen in that last quarter on face value. But watching the replay, though, I thought we were actually quite lucky to be in the game still.
That's
that kind of old that damn wall bursting sort of theory. GWS just kept hammering away until we just couldn't hold on anymore, and then they kicked away in the last quarter. The other question, which I guess we've sort of half covered as well, is was this game lost at selection? And would playing one or all of Austin, Eddie and Frampton have made any difference to the result?
I mean, not as much as Ryder in, but I think it would have made a difference. In defence, maybe. I don't think all of them, but I think Frampton in would have at least given us something different in midfield that they were not prepared for, Like, even if you just came in and had a game like that Dougal Howard's first ruck game where he, got a couple of decisive taps, like even if just enough to shake him a bit, I think that would have been a good thing. And as we said, then you have Trengove go back. Like even that change, I think could have won us that game. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I've ummed and ahed about that question a lot over the last few days, and I certainly think having an extra toll or two in the side would have certainly helped. Would it have made any difference? I'm not too sure. Did adding in a couple of extra runners really help us all that much? I don't know. Maybe that kept us in the game. Who knows?
Well, look, for me, Eddie in, yes, Eddie in is good, but if we're already getting smashed in midfield because we're ruck deficient and our midfield is not quite up to it, then Eddie in doesn't do anything much. It might have made it so that Charlie kicked another goal and maybe Eddie might have kicked a goal, but we still lose. So, yeah.
What did you think of Travis Boak's performance? He had 2 goals in the first half, picked up 20 touches. He looked really bloody good in that first half, but sort of went a little bit missing after half-time, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. You've said it all, basically. I thought Travis Boak played pretty well in the first half. I don't know. This is the thing. Like we talk about him, he's played the most games as captain at AFL level. But the team didn't seem to get anything out of him. Like he did some pretty big things for Travis Boak. Like he did some pretty nice football at important points.
Yeah. And
it didn't feel like the team lifted because of it at all.
Nah. No, that's probably true.
And I don't know whose fault that is. I don't know. I don't know what you take out of that. It's Travis playing well, and then Port's reaction to it is like GWS playing well, and then the GWS crowd's reaction to it. Like they don't seem to really appreciate what's going on.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, look, that goal he kicked in the second quarter was absolutely mint. I thought that was one of the best goals he's ever kicked.
I agree. It was right up there with his better halves.
I guess we did kick a goal a minute after as well, I guess. But, I was really hoping the team would lift for that sort of effort that he put in the first half. But it just didn't really happen in the end, I guess.
There wasn't a lift in energy, no, I don't think. And that's kind of... Oh, gee, I don't know. Like, I get that we were playing a focused game, and I know that, like, in the first half, I did respect the fact that we were trying harder than we have done in previous weeks to make sure we hit a target, which was, and that was a change. That was a positive change because we're not always concerned of that. And we're really trying to, and being conscious of it, but, yeah, I don't know.
That's it. Matthew, controversially selected in front of Brett Eddy and Billy Frampton White, came in for his first game of the year, first game in about 18 months. What did you think of his effort, and was rushing him back into the side worthwhile?
No, it wasn't worthwhile. Yes, I think he did as well as you would expect a guy who hasn't played any real football for a couple of years to do in his first outing. But do I think he could have played in the SNFL and come back and had a good time against Carlton, who would give him more space to sort of recover and get the feel of the game again? I think that would have been an infinitely superior option to bring him back against Carlton. Absolutely.
Yeah. So well, he only got 63% on ground. I'm not sure what his role was meant to be out there. He did a lot of running, but didn't really impact with his disposals and didn't really get a lot of the ball either. So was it worthwhile rushing him back in? I don't think it was. I still don't understand why we did that, but
I don't know. Look, I don't know what he added to the side that we couldn't have used someone else to try and add and shuffle, for example.
Yeah.
It's interesting comparing either of the first 2 rounds with this round, because you look at the first 2 rounds and you see how much of the time, if you count down all the times we won significant contests, how much of the time it was because we had the bigger body in the contest. Usually height-wise, but also a bit of strength-wise as well. And then you see this week, and it's just the complete inverse. So adding a 180-centimetre, 30-year-old outside midfielder, I don't know how that improved our lot against the bigger side of the competition. That's a really clinical perspective. For those numbers that he put up, I reckon I would have had Joe Atley in the side for sure.
Yeah, you'd probably... look, I would agree 100% with that. I would have much rather done a 11 disposal effort from Joe Atley as opposed to Matthew White. But
yeah, in this game, definitely, yeah.
Jared Pollock, what went wrong out there for Jared? He's been in pretty good form. I've had him as best on ground, I think, in 2 of our games so far this year. But disappointingly, he was nowhere to be seen on the weekend, and his opponent ran off him all day.
Yeah, well, look, I don't know. Like, I didn't watch his matchup all that closely. It's only looking at the stats now that I see how shitty he was. But I think that it wouldn't. If I was GWS, he's a player I definitely would have tried to target because he's been in fantastic form this year. He's had really good games. To come out of that with a 35% disposal efficiency and 14 touches, like what is that? Where did that come from? You know, I'd say they just weren't letting him build in the way he's been building as much as anything.
Darcy Byrne-Jones, is there reason to be worried with his form so far this year?
No, not really. I think he's doing what he's there to do.
Okay.
Yeah. He's pretty accountable.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't think he was that great on the weekend, but I thought his first few weeks were not too bad.
I kind of feel like when you're giving the service you are to that forward line in that game, then like I find it hard to criticise any of the individual defenders this week, purely because of just the quality of ball they were getting forward and the consistency of it. We were overwhelmed, you know. Yeah.
Jackson Trengove, how did you think he performed in the ruck against Mumford? He obviously got smacked in hit-outs, but I thought he put in a pretty decent effort, and that goal he kicked, again, should have been one that really lifted the team because it was an absolute monster goal.
Yeah, totally agree. I think he did all right for what he did. Then I'm going to say it a third time, I would have preferred he played as a key defender in this game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brad Ebert, I thought he was pretty decent on the weekend as well. He's at least been in consistent form. GWS's midfield did dominate, but I thought he was probably the best of our midfielders on the day.
Yeah, look, I agree. Just for consistency across the game. Like Travis Blakely said, he played a really good first half. And I think, probably Ebert was up there. When Ebert's our best midfielder, I don't know that we win all that often.
Yeah.
Which is not blaming him in any way, but if you're an opponent and Brad Ebert's the one that gets loose, you're probably going to win, in my view. So that's kind of symptomatic in some respects. But yeah, look, in his individual game, absolutely, I thought he was pretty good.
Jarman Impey, where's he at? What's his best position?
I've got no idea where he's at. I've got absolutely no idea. I don't know what his role is in the side. And you know, like, what is he now? What is he? He should be. Somehow, he should be, with his breadth across the shoulders and his general strength, he should be a guy that can run through the middle. But he's not. He's running around the outside. That's another deviation from the first two rounds, which is that we're running around the outside a hell of a lot more. You know, we did not try and run through contests.
Yeah.
And that was strange. We were doing that. That was really good when we were doing that, and we stopped doing that.
Yeah.
We started trying to do the dinky little chains of handballs over the top down the wings. And that's the strategy that's failed us the last 2 years. So for me, like Jarman Impey, he's either not following instructions or the instructions he's being given are shit. So I don't know where we're at with him. I've got no idea.
Yeah. Just, as I've said so many times, it's disappointing because I think he's got talent to burn. He's built like a rugby player. He's got a wonderful sidestep. He should be absolutely burning down the field.
He should be. And down the corridor.
With opposition really struggling to catch up with him. But it just doesn't happen.
Well, I mean, he was recruited for agility and speed, and the way he's playing, he's using them, but he's got agility and strength, and that's 10 times more valuable.
Yeah.
If you've got a side around you that makes those things a strength, like we didn't again in the first two rounds when we were picking a better team. I don't know where he's at. I think more than anyone, he might be symptomatic of how confused our coaching is and our selection is, because I don't. What do you think his role is in the side right now? I've got no idea.
I don't know.
What is his role?
I really don't know. It's like backup runner or something like that. I really don't understand. We seem to be playing him because we can't afford not to play him, because he was a relatively early draft pick. We've put a lot of time and effort into him, but we're 4 years in, and he didn't work out down back. He hasn't really worked out up forward.
Yeah.
He hasn't really had any time in the midfield. Like, I guess time's running out for Impey to sort of make a genuine impact before he sort of becomes trade bait or delistable.
Yeah, and look, I mean, I'm going to pump up our tyres for a bit. Like, I think that, you know, you and me and the people listening in live, because they're obviously the most astute, I think we know a bit about football. And this seems to be a theme across the team in a lot of positions. Like, Justin Westhoff made a joke about him earlier, but, like, after how many years of watching Justin Westhoff, I can't describe what he does.
No.
What's his role? What's his role on the side? And if we don't know, we watch him every week. We know a bit about football, not everything. We know a bit. And if we still can't tell you what the guy that's played 200 games, what his role is in the side, how does he know? How does anyone know? I'm confused. And Impey, another example. What's Amon's role on the side right now? Like, he's playing a bit more defensively the last couple of weeks as well. Why do we have him? Why is he a defender for us? Why has he become a sort of weird half-backy person for us? Because that seems to be where he's getting his disposals for the most part. What's his role? What's he doing?
I'd say he's still meant to be forward flank, but he's pushing up the field a bit too far, I think.
Well, maybe.
But again, like, he's quick and he can run the lines and carry and gets the ball on the outside. So I would say that the coaches want him sort of tracking up that far up the ground to be that sort of get out of trouble sort of kick. But whenever we sort of kick to him to get out of trouble, he sort of looks like a deer in headlights sometimes and gets caught at least once or twice a game. So.
Yeah, well, it's like that's not the role he was drafted for, I didn't think. Halfback. I didn't think he was drafted in that role. I don't understand that.
He's a half centre flanker, is what he is.
Yeah, kinda. And I don't even think that's a good role for him. I really don't. I think he's better at playing more a genuine half forward that doesn't run back into the back pocket when we're in defence so much.
Yeah. I do like Carl though. I've been a big fan of him, and as I said before, he's played at least consistently and he's getting a fair bit of the ball and he's kicking goals. So at least he's doing something out there.
Yeah, I guess.
Jasper's first game back. How did you find his game?
Well, he had plenty of it, didn't he? Yeah, I think then a lot of
I thought our backline looked a bit more confident with him back there than what it has, or at least what it did last week, I think.
I think it's hard. Well, I think it's hard to say you got a confident backline when they get smashed by tools the way they did. Like, it's no good being confident and getting smashed. I don't know how much. I'm not saying that's on Pittard, but like as an inclusion.
But you look at the amount of ball that was going inside 50.
Yeah.
As I said, like, it took them till 10 minutes into the last quarter to sort of get on top and look like winning the game.
Yeah.
I think the defence did a bloody good job.
But is that because we robbed the forward line / midfield to feed the defence? Like, that's where we're at. Like, it's not a Pittard criticism, but it's maybe a defensive resource allocation criticism. Like, we had Carl Amon effectively playing, half back wing. We've got Hartlett back there, we've got Pittard back there, and we've got our keyish defenders back there, Darcy Byrne-Jones back there. And we've got a lot of guys playing out of defence. And again, not blaming Pittard for this, but like, at what point do we say, hey, we need less defenders in our side?
Well, I was just about to bring that up because let's just have a look at it. We've got Broadbent, Byrne-Jones, Cleary, Hartlett, Houston, Impey, Jonas, Pittard. Who all play in defence.
Yeah, and that's the other change from the first 2 weeks.
8 players? Like,
yeah, that's the other change from the first 2 weeks, which is that we're playing more defenders and we're losing.
Yeah.
What's that all about?
So it's almost like we've reverted back to type from what we were in 2015-16, which is very disappointing.
Yeah. And like we were playing ridiculous numbers of defenders the last 2 seasons, and we're doing that again now. So... if we're going to drop Carl Amon, we've got to drop him because he's playing quasi-defence, but we don't bring in a defender to replace him. And is that his fault? Who's running defence this year as a coach? Who's doing that? Is it Bassett still?
Yep.
Do we tell him to pull his finger out and start playing a defence that, doesn't rob the other parts of the ground?
Well, I think, like, we were doing this before Bassett actually joined the club, so I think this is very much a Ken system.
Yeah, I'd say so.
It hasn't worked the last 2 years, so I don't see why we need to be reverting back to it again this year when players sort of drop out of the side. I don't understand. But what happened in that last quarter, and was there anything we could have done to stop that onslaught?
Retain focus. That's really it, pretty much. Yeah. Like, we had that quiet period where we like the whole quarter, but like just from the third quarter on, we just did nothing.
Yeah. No, we just didn't really get a kick in the last quarter at all. Like, it's almost like we burned all our, burned the candle trying to stay into the game, and we just had nothing left in the tank. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but it's almost like how it sort of played out.
Well, I mean, you don't get disposals when you're up. Okay, the way GWS play, they get the ball in the centre, they get it to guys on a quick lead, and then they kick goals. There's not if they're not being hindered in doing that, then there's no role for a Port Adelaide player to get a disposal, is there? Realistically,
no. Yeah.
And so that's where we fell down. We were letting them get on top in midfield. We weren't tight enough in defence, and then they just dominated and smashed us. They absolutely smashed us.
The disposals in the last quarter, I've just looked it up now. It was 133 to 52.
Yeah.
Like that's got to be just about the highest differential I can remember seeing in football in a quarter.
It's the biggest flaw with rebound football is that rebound football depends so heavily on forcing an error. And if you don't force an error, you got nothing. You've got to have a stronger midfield. You've got to have a midfield, and you've got to have a forward line that when your midfield does get on top, they can exploit it as often as possible. That's what GWS have got. Their defence is a bit shit. We've said that multiple times, and it still is a bit shit. But they've got a plan A that is very hard to beat. They've got a plan A that's very hard to beat, and our plan A is rebound. Like, that is our plan A, let's be honest. Our plan A, traditionally, under Ken Hinkley, is rebound.
Yeah.
That's not a premiership way to win. Rebound. It's good. It can get you through the regular season, but you got to have that. You got to be able to take the game by the scruff of the neck and straight up win it, and deprive your opponent of getting the ball when you need to. And that's something we are not good at.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else you want to add?
Nah, I don't think so.
How do you feel after that? Do you think we played all right, considering?
I think the players did about as good as I would expect them to in the circumstances. I think the coaches need to have a really good hard look at themselves, and I think that there should not be any talk about adding extra years to contracts in the coaches' box at any point until maybe round 20.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. I thought overall we did play quite well, considering how much ball they got, how many inside 50s they got. They dominated on the inside. To stay in the game and to actually lead at three-quarter time with all that happening, I thought they played pretty well.
Yeah, I think the fact that we had such a high level of focus for three quarters and we were able to sort of hold in a game that really I don't think a lot of us rated us to win. I think the players did the best they could with what they were given in each other, which is strange. But I don't look. This is a question that might become clear by the end of the year. But like you said, those goals, those periods from Boak and Trengo that really didn't give us a rise. I think that might be telling of something, and I don't know what, and it will become clear at the end of the year, I'm sure. Yeah. But that's strange. That's not normal.
No, that's true. Moving on, we'll have a quick chat about the Magpies, who went to the parade on Thursday night and came away with their first win at the ground in a decade, winning by just the 3 points, 12 goals 17 to 13 goals 8. Port came from behind a few times in the last quarter to win, with Brett Eddy kicking 3 goals, Jakey Need, Billy Frampton and Robbie Young kicking 2 as well.
When you talk about guys that don't have anything to prove in the SNFL, isn't Brett Eddy that guy?
You would think so, wouldn't you? He's been the clear-cut best key forward in the SNFL for the last at least 2 years, probably 3.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You would think he's got nothing left to sort of.
He hasn't, and he's putting up goals anyway. So good on him. But
Yeah, well, he played pretty well, and he kicked a goal in the last quarter, which put us in front as well. But Robbie Young kicked what proved to be the winning goal, which was an absolute wonderful effort deep in the pocket. He sort of stopped the ball from going through from behind, was able to break a tackle, and slot an absolute wonderful goal from deep in the pocket. So worthy of winning any match at any time, that one. And then Todd Marshall, your mate, who... went back and took the game-saving mark at centre-half back.
Did he?
In a big pack of about 15 players. He stuck the big mitts up and took the grab.
Interesting that he's playing in defence.
Well, he wasn't. He just went back there.
Oh, okay.
Because it was like 40 seconds left or something, so everyone went back there. But for him to still take that mark, very pleasing.
I'm officially starting up the Marshall for part-time Tor Backman bandwagon. So if you want to get on, listeners, get on board now.
He really
We're
is
starting.
the new Westhoff. There you go.
No, well, maybe. That is a pretty Westhoff thing to do, though, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It was very Westhoff. Yeah, Jimmy Tompkins, he was probably one to talk about. He had, on the stat sheet, he had a massive game. 28 touches, 9 marks, 3 tackles. There's been a bit of inconsistency in regards to his performance. Some people thought he was rubbish. Others thought he was best on ground. So the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. But I guess it's at least pleasing that he got that much of the ball after I think he only had something like 3 or 4 touches at halftime last week. So at least he's had a bit of a big game to try and get some confidence into him.
Where was he getting those touches?
I think he was playing across halfback and through the wing.
That's Henry Slattery numbers.
Similar to last year.
Yeah, I don't... Yeah, okay. Look, I very rarely would I say a guy playing that role is your best player.
For sure.
Not having seen the game, I don't know. Maybe he was, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was the one time in 100, but okay. We'll see how he goes.
Looking at the highlights, Billy Frampton is one that really did impress. And look, he's someone that I've been really unsure whether he's actually going to make it or be at the club beyond this year, but
yeah,
I think he's growing. I really think he's growing in confidence, growing into his body, and might be ready to get some games at some point this season. He had 17 touches, 3 marks, 6 tackles, 13 hit-outs, and kicked 2 goals, which is a pretty fair effort for a ruckman who was playing up forward as well.
Yeah, look, I mean, that's the thing about Billy Frampton that I think makes him consistently an alluring prospect is the fact that he can play up forward a little bit. And particularly if you have arguably a Frampton/Ryder combo at the top level, like then you've got a good rotation between ruck and forward line, don't you? That's pretty nice if you've got 2 similar players, and especially if they're being coached by Brendan Lade, who is exactly that player. I'm going to be on the Brendan Lade is a fantastic ruck coach bandwagon. Like, do you think maybe that's a factor that's sort of seeing him lift his game this year?
I think so. Looking at the highlights, he had some pretty impressive taps. He took an absolute monster pack mark, which I really liked, and he's a wonderful kick of the footy as well. He's a very clean kick. I would love for him to make it because I think a Ryder-Frampton combo could work pretty well. Okay,
excellent. Yeah, look, I agree. It could work pretty well. And I'm still going to maintain it, and I don't think anything will change it now. I don't want to see Matthew Lobby playing a Power Guernsey again bandwagon.
Yeah.
I'm pretty big on that one. So yeah, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see him get a crack. I would like to have seen him get a crack this week, and I'd be okay if he got a crack against Carlton, quite frankly.
Yeah. Brendan Archie, he had that monster game last week. A lot of people were sort of calling for him to come in, and he followed that up with 8 touches and 8 tackles.
Yeah, of course he did. No, he's not there. I don't think he should have been on the list this year, but there you go. These things happen.
Disappointing for him to follow that up with that sort of game, but I believe he was getting some close attention, so still should have been able to work through that a bit. Dougal Howard, his first senior game back from his knee
injury. Yep.
He apparently was very, very impressive playing down back, which is great. He had 12 touches and 6 rebound 50s, and again took some really nice marks down there as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, it'd be good to get Dougal back as an option. I'm still less bullish on him than you are, Macca. I know you're a big Dougal Howard fan from last year, but it'd be good to see him get back and find some form. Maybe he'll get the Brendan Lade effect as well. Who knows?
The thing I like about him is that he can play up forward, he can play in the ruck, and he can play down back.
Yeah, but I understand what you're saying. But for me, like, I feel like he doesn't. I don't feel he'll be a player that will ever have enough presence in any of those roles to say he is the guy that you pick to play in those roles. Like, I think he's a utility, which you describe a utility, and that's fine, and it's okay to have a tall utility. But it can really not work well at all.
Yeah. But look, he's still young. He's coming back from injury. He did look pretty impressive last year. He's worth persevering with, I think, for sure.
Yeah. Now, here's my big question. How did the last year's draftees go? Any big news for them?
Yeah, Joe Atley had 18 touches, 7 tackles, so he was very consistent and really backed up what he did last week as well. Willem Drews had a pretty slow start to the year. He had 10 touches, 6 tackles. Brett Eddy, we've already spoken about. He kicked 3 goals. And that's about it, I think.
Okay, cool.
And yeah, Marshall, who was playing up forward, as I said before, he took that great mark down back, but he had 7 touches and kicked a goal. And yeah, there seem to be quite a few people sort of criticising his game on Bigfooty. And I've just got to say, he is a very, very raw player. He's going to take a lot of time to really sort of grow into his body because he's a stick figure at the moment, and B, learn the systems and structures and all that sort of stuff. He's coming from a long way back. He's a big raw talent, but he is going to take time, and he's not going to be the sort of player that's going to dominate from this year. He's going to play some really good games, and he's going to have some games where he's not going to get a kick. But again, I think we just got to persevere through that because I think the future does look very, very bright with Todd.
Yeah, look, I mean, he's behind the 8 ball on a lot of counts, and basically all of the counts the SPP is ahead. In that he's missing physically, he's missing in terms of regular high-level football exposure, and he's playing a role that is hard to get good at. It is hard to get good at that role. It's hard to be a key forward in Australian rules football. It is, because there's so much demand on you. You've got to be confident. You've got to be resilient mentally. When you kick points, you don't get all Matthew Richardson and start kicking points every time for the rest of the game. You've got to be really resilient, mentally resilient. So there's a lot for an 18-year-old to learn.
Yeah, that's it. Especially one that
who's an 18-year-old out there that you know who's resilient.
Yeah, well, that's it. Especially one that hasn't gone through the traditional football pathway.
Exactly.
Because Todd was a cricketer. And only really sort of concentrated on football last year. So it's not like he's been in every state under whatever team for the last 4 or 5 years. He's coming. Yeah. He's just a raw young kid that's going to take a bit of time. From
Daniloquin, it's not as though he had regular access to top level coach or anything. Yeah. Anyway,
there we go. Well, I think that's it for this evening, mate.
All right, excellent. That was fun.
It was fun. That was good.
I like doing reviews. They're good.
Yeah, they are good. They're good fun. And, you can all join us again on Thursday and so we can work out how we can not lose to Carlton this time.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things where there's so many ways to not lose to Carlton. It's almost better to work out how we will lose.
Maybe we can do that. There you go.
Okay.
All right. Until next time, can the pair.
Can Port.
Who delivers beautiful on the chest of Thurston. Pickett with the overlap. Porter away.